Welcome, my fourth grade family. My name is Mr. Jimenez, or the kiddos call me Mr. J. I am their math and science teacher, and you are tuning into the YouTube channel I created for them, right? And for the parents also to refer back to whenever the kids can't be present during a lesson. So if your kiddo is sick or they're gonna miss a couple of days, then they could tune into this YouTube channel, go back to it and refer to it and finish up any like makeup work or to make up any work or to even practice at home for parents. If you want your kids to practice more of the lesson at home, then you can refer to these videos. So I am a little late. Topic 1 is done already, okay? But this material is never a waste, okay? What we're gonna go into place values and learning how to read and write numbers from the ones place to the millions place is something that they're gonna be using throughout the whole year, okay? So it really doesn't matter. Lesson number 1 is learning how to read and write numbers through 1 million. So through the 1 millions place. Lesson number 2, knowing the place value relationships, okay? How much greater is one digit in let's say the 1000s place than the digit in the tens place, right? And we'll go into that in a second. Lesson 3 is learning how to plot, order, and compare whole numbers. So they were given a number line with guide numbers, right? And those guide numbers are going to help them, right, plot a given set of numbers into that number line, okay? And they had to plot it into the number line wherever they fit, according to the guide numbers, right? So plotting, ordering is from, ascending order from least to greatest, right? Also how to compare whole numbers. So you're comparing whole numbers, which one is bigger, which one is smaller, if they're equal to, right? And then you'll use the less than, greater than, or equal to sign or symbols, right? Lesson 4 is rounding, which is probably one of the biggest ones. Rounding numbers. Rounding numbers to the nearest 10, hundreds, and thousands, right? And then there is the 5th lesson. The 5th lesson was pretty much putting everything together and figuring out your own way on how to, round, plot, compare. Lesson 5 is pretty much just like kind of like a review and using your own math and reasoning, thinking and reasoning to solve the problem. So let's get into read and write numbers through 1 million, right? So I had literally built a place value from scratch. So the way that I did it was, in the book, it's gonna tell them that the place value has periods. I broke it down to families. Instead of periods, I broke it down to families because it's more relatable. So I pretty much built a place value from scratch, okay? Again, there's 3 families, right? We got the ones place, thousands place, millions place. Every family has 3 members: ones, tens, hundreds. Here's the ones, tens, hundreds. The only thing is that it has the thousands last name, but they still have a ones, tens, hundreds. Ones, tens, hundreds with the millions last name, okay? I'm gonna explain that in a second. So let's say we have, so I broke it again into families. So we have 222, right? I had them read that number within the family. Right now, the number that's in the family, the millions family, is 222. They all said it perfectly fine, 222. Now, what is the family's last name? So they said 222 million. Then we went over to the thousands place, okay? Over to the thousands place. Let's read that number in the thousands family. 222, last name, 1,000, okay? Then we went over to the ones place. Now with this one, it's a little different because I told them. So this family is a little rebel, right? They ain't want to know about no one. They want to have nobody's last name. This is the ones place. So you're just going to read 221, that's it. You don't say last name. The ones doesn't have a last name. Okay, again, you read the number within the family first. 222,222,222. That's it. Okay. So reading a number up to the 1 millions, I kind of challenged them. I went over to the 100 millions. But I went over to the 100 millions, but they're only reading numbers up to the 1 millions place. But they got the concept, okay? And visualizing them, right? Visualizing the numbers separated, right? By families, they were able to read the number within the family and then the family's last name, okay? So that's kind of how I presented it to them, just so it could understand and be a little bit more relatable. Okay, so reading and writing. Now, writing a number. There's 3 ways of writing a number. There is standard form. Their standard form is pretty much using the digits, the actual digits, the numbers, the digits, and separating the number, depending how big the number is, by its commas. It's just regular writing the number as is. This is a standard form. Standard form is literally just writing the number. That's standard form. Okay? 2,456. That's standard form. Now, expanded form. Expanded form is writing the number, right? And you're expanding the number, but writing it by its value. That's where the zeros in my place value come in. So, let's say I have 21,234. Another thing that they need to remember is that after every 3 place values, there's a comma separating the families, okay? So you got the ones, tens, hundreds, comma. 1,000s, 10,000, 100,000s, comma, okay? That is something that also with using the family concept, they understood. So after you pass a family, okay, starting from the right to the left, you add a comma. Okay, you pass the thousands family, you add a comma. Okay, so this is something that they're gonna see, right? They're gonna read this number. It is 21. That's the number within the family. Then you say the last name, 1,234. That's it. Okay, because the ones doesn't have a last name. So now, writing it in expanded form. Expanded form, again, is writing each digit, right? Writing each digit according to its value, So this is where these zeros that I wrote in the place value come in handy, right? And this is how it works. So the 4, right? The 4 doesn't have a 0 because it's just ones, right? It's just 4 ones. There's no tens in there. So there's no need for you to put a 0 there. So if by any chance the students don't know where the zeros start, if they're creating their place value from scratch and they're drawing this place value on a piece of paper for their test, because they could do that. That's what I want them to do. I want to create this. I want them to know how to draw this out so that when they get that scratch paper or practice paper or paper to show your work, they could literally draw it on the paper and utilize it. Okay, utilize that place value to their advantage and use it in the test. Okay, so if they don't know where the zeros start, right, to help them, it always starts in the tens place. The tens place is always going to start with 1 0. And then you move forward from there. 1 0, 2 zeros, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And I'm going to show you why that is important. All right. So let's start with the 10,000s place. So the value of this 2 in the 10,000s place is, this is the 2, right? And then how many zeros are in that place value? 4. So just add those zeros to that 2. You got 4 zeros, right? Let's know where the comma goes. Ones, tens, hundreds, comma. So the value of that 2 in the 10,000s place is 20,000. Okay? Let's move forward to the 1 in the 1,000s place. What is the value of that 1? Okay, I'm going to write the 1. How many zeros? 1, 2, 3. Okay? So the value of that 1 is 1,000. Let's figure out where this comma goes. Ones, tens, hundreds, comma. Okay? Now let's go to that 2 in the hundreds place. 2, how many zeros? 1, 2. So that 2 in the hundreds place has a value of 200. Now they always get confused on, like sometimes the test will tell them, hey, listen, what value does the 2 in the 10,000s place have? And they always want to put the actual place value that the 2 is found in. The 2 is found in the 10,000s place. Yes, that's true. But they want to know what is the value of that 2 in the 10,000s place. So what is it worth? Okay? Yeah, you have a 2 there, but it's worth something. And this 2 and this 2 have 2 different values. Okay? I prefer having $20,000 than $200, right? I prefer having $20,000 than $200, right? So let's go on to the 3 in the tens place. The value of that 3 is, let me show you, right? The 3, how many zeros? Just 1. So the value of that 3 is 30. Okay? Now, let's go into the ones. So that value is 4. They wrote it, and this is called the expanded. This is expanded form. So this is how I write my 21,234 in expanded form. Okay. Now in the test, they're going to want you to put right the plus signs in between. Okay, because in reality, you're adding all these numbers to give you this number here. Okay, so if you add 1,234. If you're adding those together, you're going to get this number, okay? So that's writing the number in expanded form, Now, writing the number in word form, I had them carry around this here, okay? So this sheet is going to tell them how to spell every number in word form. So how would I write this number in word form, and what is word form? It's pretty much just literally writing the number that you're saying, that the number that's coming out your mouth. So right now, the number is 21,234. So I would literally write 4. And this is word form. Okay? So these are the 3 forms of writing a number that they had to learn. Again, standard form, expanded form, and word form. Okay, so that's how they would write and read a whole number up to the 1 millionth place. Okay, now let's go into the place value relationship. So place value relationships is a difficult concept to grasp. Okay, they had a little trouble understanding the concept, but once they started to actually work it out on a place value and actually practicing, they kind of got the point, right? And it's something that they're going to have a difficult time pretty much throughout the whole year, because they learn it once and they kind of forget it, and then they have to relearn it and they forget it. So it's just a matter of practicing and doing it over and over again. So what is place value relationships? Place value relationships is comparing a digit in the 10,000s place to the same digit that's in the 200s place. Now I used the same digit in this number, right? 2222222, right? Because it's easier for them to see and grasp the jump that the 2 in a smaller place value makes to the 2 in a higher place value. So you're gonna see the jump now. So I am the 2 in the hundreds place. My value is 200, okay? If I go over to the left just once, okay? If I go over to the left where this purple 2 is circled, just once, okay? Let's go with the pink. Just once, I just became 10 times greater. So this 200 became 10 times greater. 200 times 10 gives you 2,000. Now I'm in the 1,000s place, and this 2 in the 1,000s place is 10 times greater than the 2 in the 100s place. Okay, now I'm back to the 2 in the 100s place. And they're comparing now the 2 in the 10,000s place to the 2 in the 100s place, right? So now I'm the 2 in the 100s place, my value is 200. I'm gonna go 1, 2, okay? Because the 2 here in the 10,000s place is 2 place values away. So you have times 10. And if you go one more times 10, right? This would be times 100. So if they ask you on the test, how much greater is this 2 in the 10,000s place to the 2 in the 100s place, you would say it is 100 times greater. Now, I'm not sure if you're seeing the concept here now, but if you go a third time over, another times 10, so let's say they're comparing this 2 to this 2, now you're going another times 10, right? So if 10 times 10 is 100, then what is 100 times 10? Then that means that this 2, if you go all the way over here, this 2 is 1,000 times greater than this 2, okay? So if you look at it, and if you look at the value, they're just gaining, right, a tens, right, times 10, times 10, times 10. If you want to practically look at it, they're gaining a 0. So this starts with 2, then 3 zeros, then 4, then 5, okay? That's why place value, or getting them to actually draw out the place value on their like scrap paper and utilizing it on their tests is very helpful, because now they have this whole guide for them to use. So parents, if you want, copy this, make them learn it, make them memorize it, make them write this place value over and over again. Make them know that the zeros start in the tens. So start putting the zeros up there, okay? Make them know that, okay, the 2 here in the tens place has a value of 20, right? Because there's 2 tens. The 2 here in the hundreds place has a value of 200 because there is 2 hundreds, okay? And so on and so forth. So that's going to the left. Now let's go to the right, which is where they have a bit more difficulty. Let me open up a new place value. Okay, let's go a little thicker. We're gonna say use the same number, same digits, okay? That's another thing. On the test, they're gonna give them numbers like this. Obviously different digits, right? It's probably gonna have 245,156, right? And they're gonna give 4 numbers like that. And they're gonna ask you, okay, which of these numbers, okay, have a digit that is 10 times greater than the digit on the right? Which of these numbers has a digit that is 10 times greater than the digit to the right? Okay, that tells you that, one, in order for it to be 10 times greater, it needs to be the same digit, okay? Because this is not 10 times greater. Or this is not 10 times greater. All right, this is obviously more. Okay, so you gotta really pay attention to the question. Right? Sometimes I think they intentionally try to like trick these students, right? But be vigilant, okay? Look for words, look for keywords, okay? So if they tell you that they need a number, or select the number that has a number that's 10 times greater than the number to the right, then you know, okay, there's a number that to the right of that number is rather 1, it has to be the same digit. So a 4 and a 4, a 2 and a 2, a 3 and a 3, right? Because it needs to be the same digit. And that is right next to each other because it's only 10 times greater. If it was 2 spaces, right? And they say 100 times greater, that means that you got to look for 2 of the same digits but they are 2 spaces apart, okay? So that's something that they have to look for. And I know it's a difficult concept, and they'll get it once they start, practicing, okay? So now to the right. So they're gonna ask them, what digit, right? What digit is 1/10 less than the digit in the 1,000ths place? Again, what digit is 1/10 less than the number in the 1,000ths place? 1/10 less, that means that is not times 10, but is divided by 10 or 1/10 less. So the number to the right of the place value that they're mentioning is always going to be 1/10 less than the number on the left, okay? From the 2 in the 1,000ths place to the 2 in the 100ths place is 1/10, okay? From the 2 in the 1,000ths place to the 2 in the 10ths place is 1/100th of its value. From the 2 to the from the 2 in the 1,000ths place to the 2 in the 1s place, this 2 is 1,000ths less than this 2. Okay, it's just the wording that they get confused on. Now moving on to lesson number 3 was plotting, ordering, and comparing whole numbers. Okay, so first off, plotting numbers. Plotting numbers is pretty much taking given numbers. Okay, I have an example up here: 4,280, 4,256, 4,358, and plotting them where they fit using those guide numbers. So they're already going to give you some guide numbers, right? And those numbers are going to guide you to plotting those numbers correctly in ascending order. Okay, ascending order means from least to greatest. So the number line is going to be from least to greatest, and you have to plot those numbers correctly. And what they are going to learn, or what they've learned, is that by looking at this number and comparing it to the guide numbers, they could pretty much know where that number will fall. So 4,280, I know that is bigger than 4,200. I know that is bigger than 4,250. So that number falls and is closer to 4,300. So that's going to fall somewhere around here. Okay, let's go to the next number. You always start from the smallest, right? From the smallest side of the number line, you go over. So you go to the right. 4,200 is greater. Yes, that's greater than this 4,200. So let me go to my 4,250. Yes, it's greater. And oh, hold on. Now I hit a wall here, 4,280. That number is smaller than this number. Therefore, it goes somewhere in the middle, somewhere here, 4,256. Now, in my test, I'm not going to be so precise. You don't have to plot them exactly where they belong. But if I could see that you understand where they belong using the guides, then I'll give it to you, okay? So this 4,358, again, I'm measuring, okay? I could start from over here, but I could see that I could probably start from here. 4,358 is greater than this number here, 4,300. Then let's move on to the next guide number, 4,350. Is it greater than this number? Yes. No, it's not greater. 4,358 falls somewhere around here because it's greater. And is less than 4,400. So that's plotting, right? And they kind of got that. That's pretty simple. Now, ordering numbers was quite simple, okay? It wasn't too difficult. They're going to give them a question like, okay, how many people attended in game 1? How many people attended in game 2, game 3, game 4, right? So I have a little example here. So let's say there was a baseball game, right? And this much people came in game 1, game 2, game 3, game 4, right? Now we're gonna put these numbers in order from least to greatest. Now the way that I've taught them is, okay, we do it by place value. We're gonna look at every place value and we're gonna start comparing and putting these numbers in order. So I already see from the 10,000s place, I can't decide which one is greater, which one is less than, okay? From the thousands place, I can. So I see a 2 and a 2, a 3 and a 2. From that point on, I already know that game 3 had the most people, right? So I'm gonna plot that here. Okay, I'm gonna put this number here because I know that's the greatest. Now, let's continue on, right? Now, we know that we used this number here. We're no longer using that. We already put it on our list. Now, let's, again, start from the 10,000 place. We can't do nothing there. We cannot do anything in the thousands place because that's the same digit. Now, let's go over to the hundreds place. Ooh, I see a difference here, okay? I see a 5, a 6, and a 5. So I already know that this number would be next greatest, okay? So now I cross that one out, okay? Now, let's go over to the last two numbers. We have the 4s in the 10,000s, can't do nothing there. Can't do nothing in the thousands, can't do nothing in the hundreds. I can't do nothing in the tens, so let's look at the ones. Look at the ones. Now, okay, now I see a difference. There's a 7 and a 6, which one is greater? The 7. So therefore, this is the next number that goes, and then this is the least, okay? And this one is the least. So that's pretty much how they kind of learned how to put numbers in order by using the place value and just cross-eliminating, okay? I already know that this number is greater than this number, then I'm gonna put it where it belongs. So that is ordering. And then comparing. Comparing is even more simpler, right? Because they're pretty much got two big numbers. So let's say 56,278. And they might throw a little curveball and say 56,782. So it might look similar, but again, if you look at the two digits, the 5 and the 5, they cross out. 6 and the 6, they cross out. The 2 and the 7, there's where we see a difference. Which one is greater? The 7. And they needed to use the correct symbol. I always tell them that the big mouth is always going to be towards the bigger number, okay? The tail or the butt always goes to the smaller number, okay? So I kind of, I made it fun and I drew a little, little teeth and stuff like that so they could, laugh and they enjoyed it, right? So again, the bigger number, the greater number is always going to be the one to be eaten, right? I even put an example like, okay, and I brought a student that was fairly, fairly slim, right? And I was like, okay, who is the alligator gonna eat more? He's gonna eat me, right? The bigger one, because I have more meat, I'm fat. So again, just different illustrations like that, they enjoy. So the bigger number is always the one that goes towards the mouth, right? Now, obviously this symbol is less than, because it's less than, right? It starts with less than. Then this symbol is your greater than, right? Greater than, and then there's equal to, okay? Less than, greater than, equal to, all right? So that is comparing the two numbers, and that was fairly simple. They kind of got that. Now, lesson 4, this is a biggie. This is one that they had somewhat of a difficult time with, but if they followed the steps that Mr. J taught them, they shouldn't have no problem. So rounding, if they followed the steps as I kind of drew it out, right? I did step 1, step 2, step 3, and they sort of figured out what was Mr. J talking about. So let me zoom in a little bit here. These are the steps, right? So what place value am I underlining? Okay. In a question, in the test, they're going to ask you something like, okay, round this number to the nearest tens place. Now, when you hear the nearest tens place, when you hear the nearest hundreds place, when you hear the nearest thousands place, that means that that's the number that you have to underline. That is going to be your rounding number. That is going to be the number where you start at. You start at that number. Okay, that's where they're looking to round. This is your rounding number, right? So in this case, in my number here, 6,500 and let me zoom out a little bit. 6,589. Okay, 6,589. If they're telling me round to the nearest tens place, that is the number that I'm gonna underline. I was telling them, they literally tell you where to start. They tell you whether to start in the tens, hundreds, or thousands place. So if they tell you nearest thousand, you go to your thousands place. If they tell you nearest hundred, you go to your hundreds. If they tell you nearest tens, you go to your tens. So in this case, let's say they're telling me, okay, what place value am I underlining? The tens place. So they're telling you go to the nearest tens place. Okay? Step 2 is the digit to the right of the underlined number. So I'm the number 8. It's the digit to my right of the underlined number, 4 or less, or 5 or more. I even gave them a jingle, okay? I said, 4 or less, let it rest, 5 or more, raise the score. So if it's 4 or less, if that number to the right of the underlined number, okay, the number to the right of the underlined number is 4 or less, that underlined number stays the same. You don't round it up, you don't move it, okay? If that number to the right of the underlined number, that's keyword of the underlined number, okay, is 5 or more, then that underlined number needs to go up, okay? I even had a whole monologue. I told them, hey, listen, I made myself talk to the 9. I said, hey, 9, what's going on? Mr. J is teaching us this jingle. Can you please explain this jingle? Yes, this jingle is pretty much, okay, if it's 4 or less, let it rest. 5 or more, raise the score. And are you, 4 or less or 5 or more? And I made it fun for them, right? So obviously the number to the right of the underlined number is a 9, which makes it round up. You're raising the score. So that 8 has to go up, okay? So look at numbers, step 3. If the number is 4 or less, the underlined number stays the same, as I said, okay? If the number is 5 or more, the underlined number rounds up, okay? So it is 5 or more, which that underlined number has to round up, okay? Now, this is another thing that I wanted them to, and it's just to get them to read. If you could get them to read the instructions, read the steps, they'll get it. Every number to the left of the underlined number, so I'm the number 8, I'm the underlined number. If you read step number 4, every number to the left of the underlined number never changes. It just transfers over. So the numbers 6 and 5 are to the left of the 8. Those never change, they just transfer over, okay? Every number to the right of the underlined number becomes zeros. So this is the underlined number, and every number to the right becomes zeros, okay? So literally, if they follow the steps, step by step, they could figure out how to round, okay? And this is up here if you want to screenshot it, however you want, okay? I'll even zoom in a little bit. So if you wanted to screenshot it, you can. And I'll zoom in a little bit, okay? All right, let me zoom out a bit more. There you go, okay? So that's rounding, right? There is another strategy where it involves number lines. I believe that strategy is a bit more difficult for them to understand, especially when it comes to tens and hundreds, because then the number line that they have to draw has to be broken down into tens and hundreds. But I'm gonna do it anyways, just to give you a look. Okay. So let's say we have that number, right? We're gonna round it to the nearest 1,000. Okay. They're gonna have a number line. Okay. And if I look at 6,589, the lowest that number could go, rounded to the nearest 1,000, is 6,000. And the highest that number could go, rounded to the nearest 1,000, right? Because we're looking at the thousands place. So this number here rather stays the same or goes up. And if it stays the same and it goes down, it turns into a 6,000. If it goes up, it turns into a 7,000. And I always told them, what is the midway? What is the midpoint, right? And try to make it as easy as possible for you to understand where would that number round up to or round down to, okay? So the midpoint here, the midpoint is 6,500. So I'm looking at 6,589. Let's use the guide numbers. Is it closer to the 6,000 side or the 7,000 side? So if you look at it, this number falls somewhere between 6,500 and 7,000, okay? So this number would round up to 7,000, okay? If it's rounded to the nearest thousands, okay? Rounded to the nearest thousands, okay? So that is rounding. So that's pretty much it for topic 1, guys. We just went over all the 4 main lessons. The 5th lesson is more of a math, thinking, and reasoning, just trying to find a reasonable solution for a word problem, and then using all the concepts that we learned. But the big ones were place value, relationships, and the rounding. The rounding is really big on this topic. So, but overall on the assessment, they did pretty good. I was pretty happy with the results. Now we're going to go into topic 2, which is pretty much all of multiplication basic facts and division facts. So they're going to be learning different strategies that they could use to solve those basic facts, right? But if they could memorize the times tables, if they could, practice the times tables, know the multiplication chart. When I say multiplication chart, if you look behind a composition book, composition notebook, you'll see that chart, the multiplication chart. Back then, and we used to use that to, practice and memorize. But that's pretty much it, guys. So this is the first video. Okay, topic 2 is coming up. I'm actually working on it now. So they'll be having a test right now. Today is the 4th. Today is the 4th of September. On the 5th, which is Friday, I believe. Yes, the Friday, they'll have like a 5-question quiz on what topic 2 or the beginning of topic 2 was about, the first 3 lessons. And honestly, the first 3 lessons is literally teaching them how to figure out to solve a basic facts. Basic facts are your times tables. So if they don't know what 12 times 6 is, they could use different strategies to know what 12 times 6 is. But again, if they memorize it, they shouldn't have that problem. But I know that that could be something difficult to some kids. So we teach them strategies to solve it, right? Like, for example, distributive property of multiplication. Okay, and we're going to go into that in the next video. So that's what we're on right now. On the quiz, again, tomorrow is just literally a 5-question quiz on the first couple of lessons that we've went through so far. And that's it, guys. If you have any questions, please do not hesitate to reach me. Please, if you have any concerns, anything that is private that you don't want nobody else to know about, just reach out directly, shoot me a message, and I'll definitely answer as soon as possible, okay? Football started, so please don't go to sleep too late, but enjoy your game. All right, guys, God bless you. Bye-bye.